Nigerian police left those who attacked voters during 2023 elections and then detained the journalist who was covering irregularities, EU report says. That's exactly what they did now, because the Nigerian police was working for the APC and for the INEC. And INEC and APC had already aligned on how they were going to rig the election in favor of the APC party. So, and that is why rather than police protecting the voters during the election period, they rather went and started dealing with innocent people, then detaining journalists that have their cameras. Quite unfortunate that we're in a system where irregularities is widely accepted without question. So the EU report has indicted the police in this regard. And that is why the police could not arrest all the people that made hate speeches, especially in Lagos and in Rivers State during the election. The likes of MC Olomo and all the motopark people that Tinubu used, all the APC thugs in the southwest and in Rivers State were not arrested. APC thugs in Kaduna, Kano, and Borno were not arrested. Okay, but they were always looking for comment from opposition party, PDP, and Labour Party. Then they will take it to the market and start shouting. Okay, so but thank God the EU, being part of the International Election Observation Team, have also come out with their final report, different from the one that came from West African countries, and then from the EU as well. So let's see what this report is saying in detail. The EU report said it was sad, okay, that in some cases the police detained the journalists who documented irregularities, but not the attacker. The European Union Election Observation Mission has decried the Nigerian police inaction, which fueled impunity during the 2023 general elections. The EU report said it was sad that in some cases the police detained the journalists who documented irregularities, but not the attacker. Okay. The EU Election Observation Mission stated this in its final report on the 2023 general election, which was submitted to the Independent National Electoral Commission on Monday. That is the issue. So Independent National Electoral Commission has gotten this report from the EU, but what are they going to do with it? They will trash it. I am sure they will trash it. According to the report, media workers were left vulnerable and prone to attacks, while the security agencies watch or even collaborate with attackers. A development they said was despicable. The report stated law enforcement agencies failed to prosecute persons who attacked, intimidated, and harassed or obstructed journalists prior to, on, and after both election days. The EU Election Observation Mission observers confirmed multiple incidents involving media. Several attacks occurred in plain sight of the police, and in some cases, the police detained the journalists who documented irregularities, but not the attacker. It clearly evidences the absence of actual practices for protection of media practitioners. The report noted that impunity encouraged by police inaction was detrimental to freedom of expression, more so when independent and trusted outlets were targeted. The EU Observation Mission, however, recommended for adequate protection of freedom of expression by developing a comprehensive operational framework underpinned by the skills and means for ensuring prompt investigation and prosecution of all types of attacks against media practitioners. The group also observed the electoral body lacked the institutional capacity for enforcement to enforce and maintain election campaigns, adding that account for the high level of impunity with which governors restricted opposition's political parties from campaigning in their states. Yeah, that also happened now. Okay. But they told us they had a stakeholders meeting, and then the then head of state, Abdulsalam Abubakar, had a national peace committee, and then they called everybody together to shun electoral violence, but that didn't happen. INEC, that is custodian of the electoral laws and electoral act of 2022, also violated it in totality. Okay, so how would they then prosecute governors who were small kings in their various states and were using the state government machineries to prevent opposition parties from campaigning freely? It happened almost all over the country. Certain Electoral Act of 2022, Section 92, subsection 2, which prohibits the use of state apparatus to the advantage or disadvantage of any political party or candidate, the group stated despite clear provision of the law, nevertheless there was an unequal access to public venues and various forms of outdoor advertising due to governors restricting campaign opportunities of opponents. Exactly, because it happened in Rivers State, but the major state was Lagos State, where even when Labour Party and PDP made payment to the state advertisement board, they returned their money, saying that a direct instruction came from above that they should not accept any form of fee for advertisement from opposition parties. It happened in Lagos State. And up till now, it was not investigated, and nothing has happened about that. All APC arrangement. Quite unfortunate. Thank God the EU is writing it in their report now. Okay, this is actually very bad. It added EU EOM observers also noted that some governors imposed campaign rules which were more restrictive than INEC regulations and undertook executive actions imposing pressure on civil servants and stakeholders. Incumbents excessively used state resources for campaign purposes. It, however, observed that the electoral body revised various campaign guidelines, including for parties and candidates, when it lacked the institutional capacity for enforcement. The report therefore recommended for the establishment of a robust and effective monitoring and sanctioning mechanism by the electoral body to curtail abuse of incumbency, including obstructions and interference with state-level authorities. On the election finances, the report noted that lack accountability for parties, candidates, and third parties is the absence of requirements for traceability of funds to source. EU EOM report recommended for promotion of transparency and accountability in campaign finances by introducing a mandatory requirement on political parties, candidates, and third parties to operate pre-notified dedicated bank accounts for donations, revenues, and spending, subject to clear rules of accounting, reporting, and public disclosure before, during, and after campaigns, with robust sanctions for non-compliance. It noted that with that, issue of vote buying would be reduced. This is a very comprehensive report, and a very, very comprehensive, and all these things they noted are the things we already know about, that the things that actually happened during the elections. So the same people that a Labour Party and PDP and all Nigerian citizens are crying inside the country is exactly what the EU observation team has also written from outside the country. So this report is in consonance with the complaints and dissatisfactions that some Nigerians have registered with the just concluded election. Wow. So very contrary, very corny people. They choose to report the one that did not carry much weight to nail Tinubu. Observe they skipped the vital evidence of election rigging, which is inability of INEC to upload results at real time, thereby making rubbish of their guidelines, which they made the world to believe that is a clincher, is for stalling election rigging. Forget these people. They want Tinubu to further protect their interest of exploiting Nigeria, that they know they can't try with Obi. Exactly. Yeah, because the issue of election rigging, the issue of announcing results when all the reports have not been gotten, was not mentioned. The issue of shutting down the IRF portal and saying there was glitches, all written around that INEC chairman's behavior, they didn't really put all those ones. Okay, you get this correctly. They are toying with us. They are toying with us in this country. Nigeria truly, they ought to have nailed it as it was. Yeah, they selected what they reported, that's the truth. It is there. This is not the full report. It's like the summary. They made it clear that INEC was not transparent in uploading the result and failed to communicate with the people and the parties on the glitches if there was any. They also said the failure of INEC to upload the results in real time as promised gave people the chance to manipulate the results. They also talked about vote buying, intimidation, and all. Okay, so if they did, let them publish this report for us to see publicly. Because my problem is that now that I've given that report to INEC, INEC is going to select or selectively release information inside that they want the public to hear, and then the rest they'll put them in the bin. I'm sure that's what INEC is going to do. They should release this report to all of us to see. Somebody said the mastermind of the attack and its sponsor, MC Olomo, is still walking free without questioning or arrest by police. My question is MC Olomo above the law? It's not. That's a very good question, but no answer yet. DSS are still alive, but keep mute. Exactly. So it was quite unfortunate. Everything that came out of this election was terribly very bad. And the only good thing here is that the International Observation Team have seen confirmed exactly what the Nigerian grievances are, and even the ECOWAS team too. The ECOWAS Observation Team reported something similar. I know they will try to be diplomatic in their report so I don't instigate violence in the country. But I think their report is comprehensive, like one person is saying here, that everything is in that report. So probably they're selecting what they will be telling us. Maybe over time we'll get access to the full report. So thank you for listening. Let's have a comment.